Good day, everyone. Welcome to week 7 of the video presentation. I will be presenting on data visualization today and some covering some part of dashboarding as well. Dashboarding and data visualization are pretty much a key topic in project analytics. Data visualization refers to representation of data using charts, graphs, and other visual formats. Instead of looking at raw data on or spreadsheet, we convert data into visual so that it's much easier to understand it, to interpret the data, and then you can understand what it means, the data means. And this helps us in identifying patterns, relationships, and insights that are not immediately obvious. In project management, this is extremely valuable. Projects generate large amounts of data, such as cost, timelines, risks, and performance metrics. Without visualization, interpreting the data could be quite difficult. Visualization not just a technical thing; it also is an art. It allows us to communicate complex information in a simple and meaningful way. A well-designed chart can tell you a story, it supports decision making and improve communication among stakeholders. So in this presentation, I will try to cover the importance of data visualization, different types of graphs, and how dashboards help in real-time monitoring and decision making. This is your week's schedule. I'm not sure why the slide's not good. The topic we cover is, we covered in week 1, we gave you the introduction of data analytics, project analytics. Week 2, we talked about the data basics, then followed by analytical tools. And then in week 4, we started with the types of analytical approaches, which is your descriptive analytics, then delved deeper into diagnostic analytics, and then you went through the guest lecture. And in week 7, we are looking at data visualization and dashboarding. And the following weeks, we'll be looking at predictive analytics, and prescriptive, and some automated tools. So what is data visualization? Data visualization is essentially a visual summary of the information or the data. When data is presented visually, it becomes much easier to identify trends, patterns, and relationship. For example, instead of reading hundreds of rows in a spreadsheet, a simple graph can instantly show whether the performance is improving or declining. One key point is that data becomes more valuable when it is visualized. Raw data alone has limited impact, but when transformed into visuals, it becomes actionable insights. Another important aspect is communication. Not everyone in an organization is comfortable interpreting raw data. Visualization helps bridge that gap by making findings accessible to both technical and non-technical audience. Without visual representation, it can be very difficult for audience to grasp the true meaning of the data. This is why visualization plays a crucial role in reporting, presentation, and decision making. Fine, let's see some of the benefits of data visualization. Data visualization offers several important benefits. First, it helps us understand changes over time. For example, tracking project progress or cost trends becomes much easier with visual tools like line chart. Second, it also allows us to determine frequency, how often a certain event occurs. This is usually useful in risk analysis or performance monitoring. Third, you can look at visualization. It helps in identifying relationships between variables, also known as correlation. I hope you guys remember correlation from week 5. For example, we can examine how cost relates to project duration or workload affects productivity. So that's the correlation between these two variables. Another important benefit is network analysis. We call it network analysis. Is where we identify clusters, connections, or key influences of the project, commonly used in market research and stakeholder analysis. Visualization also improves project scheduling, especially with tools like Gantt chart, which clearly show tasks, timelines, and dependency. Finally, it helps in analyzing value and risk, especially when dealing with complex data. Color coding visual indicators can quickly highlight high risk areas or valuable opportunities. Uh, Finally, overall data visualization simplifies complexity and support better decision making. All right, let's see how visualization is used. Visualization or data visualization is used in real-time situation, especially in project management and analytics. First, and one of the most commonly used way is showing changes in over time. For example, we can track project progress, cost, and performance over weeks or months. A simple line chart can quickly show whether things are improving, declining, or there's no difference, it's staying stable. Even though this is a basic use, it is extremely valuable for monitoring trends. Next is determining the frequency, which means understanding how often something or some event happens. For instance, you look at how frequently risk occurs in a project or how often delays happen. When time is involved, visualization helps us clearly see patterns that would be hard to identify in raw data. Another important use is determining relationships or correlations between variables. You look at want to see if increased workload leads to lower productivity. Without visual tools like scatter plot, it is very difficult to identify these relationships. So visualization makes this connection much clearer and easier to interpret. The slide here also mentions about examining networks, which is commonly used as areas in like marketing or stakeholders analysis. Here, visualization helps identify groups, connection, or key influencers. If you look at, for example, businesses can identify customer segments or understand how different groups are connected. Another key use is scheduling, especially in project management. When dealing with complex project timelines can be confusing. Tools like Gantt chart will visually represent or display task durations and dependency, making it much easier to manage the project schedule. So finally, data visualization is obviously a very good and very useful tool for analyzing values and risks. Projects often involve multiple variables, making it hard to assess risk using spreadsheet alone. If you look at data from a spreadsheet, it might be a little hard for you to assess the risks. Visual tools like color or coding or dashboards can quickly highlight high risk areas and valuable opportunities, helping managers make better decisions. Overall, this slide shows that data visualization is not just chart, it is a powerful tool for understanding trends, relationship, risk, and making informed decision. Data visualization, where it should be used. So the key qualities that good data visualization should have is been represented in this slide. In other words, what makes a chart or dashboard more effective. First and foremost, a visualization should be informative. This means it must be clearly communicate the intended message from the data to audience. When someone looks at chart, they should immediately understand the key insights. So if you think about any market research data and the visualization tool, you can easily capture, looking at employment percentage or employment percentage in different cities. So you can easily look at from a chart and say its employment is getting better or not, something like that. So you should immediately understand the key insights without needing too much explanation. If the message is unclear, the visualization fail its purposes. Second, it should be effective. Efficiency means the visual should not be confusing or ambiguous. It should represent information in a simple and more direct way, allowing the audience to quickly interpret the data. Good visualization save plenty of time and reduce the efforts needed to understand complex information. The third one, it should be appealing. This refers to visual design. A good chart should be visually pleasing and engaging. Elements like color, layout, and clarity play an important role. If a visual is attractive, it captures attention and keeps the audience interest, making the message more impactful. Finally, you see the interactive and predictive feature, which are optional but quite powerful. Modern visualization, especially dashboard, allows users to interact with the data. For example, applying filters, selecting variables, or exploring different scenarios. This helps users not only understand current data but also predict future outcomes and quite make some better decision. In summary, a good visualization of your data should be clear, simple, engaging, and when possible, quite interactive. These qualities pretty much ensure that the data is not just presented but truly understood and used effectively. All right, let's look at some different types of graphs. Bar or column graphs are one of the most commonly used types of visualization. They are mainly used to compare values across different categories. For example, comparing employee performance or project cost across departments or sales across regions. So that's where you use your um, different types of categories, or comparing values across different categories. One of their main advantages is that they can summarize large data set into a simple visual format. They also make it easy to compare two or more data sets and quickly identify differences. Bar graphs are also very effective at highlighting trends across clearly than tables. However, they do have some limitations. They often require additional explanation, especially if the audience is unfamiliar with the data. Also, they can be manipulated, for example, by changing scales to give misleading impressions. There are also several variations such as stacked bar charts, histograms, and even 3D bar graphs. Overall, bar charts are simple, effective, and widely used for comparison. In this slide, what this shows is an example of a bar graphs used to compare employees' performance after training. In this case, each bar represents a different employee or group, and the height of the bar shows their performance level. Pretty much your x-axis is the employee, and then y-axis is the number of the scale of performance. This type of visualization makes it easy or quite easy to see who has improved the most after training and where further improvements may be needed. Instead of analyzing numbers individually, we can quickly identify trends and make decisions such as recognizing top performance or identifying areas for additional training. So look at line graphs. So what is line graphs is used for? Line graphs are used to show how a value changes over time. They are particularly useful for identifying trends, which is why they are often called time series charts. For example, in project management, you can use line graphs to track progress, cost, or resource usage over time. One major advantage is that they clearly show relationships and trends between data points. They also allow comparison of multiple groups, for example, comparing performance across teams over time. However, line graphs can become confusing if too many lines are added, especially if they are not clearly related. Also, it can be difficult to identify exact values from the graph. Despite these limitations, line graphs are one of the best tools for tracking trends and changes over time. What is the other type of graph is your pie graph. Pie graph or pie charts are typically used to represent portions or percentages. They provide a visual representation of how a whole is divided into different parts. For example, showing the percentage of employees working in different roles. One key advantage is that, or using pie chart, is that they provide a clear visual understanding of proportions. They are also easy to label and visually appealing. However, as like other charts, pie charts have limitations. It is difficult to compare multiple data sets using pie charts, and it can be hard to interpret if the segments are similar in size. Also, without labels, pie charts can be confusing. There are variations such as donut chart, which functionally similar but have a different visual style. Let's look at an example here. This example shows the percentage of employees working in different roles. Each segment of pie represents a specific role, and its size reflects the portion of employees in that category. This type of chart is very effective for understanding workforce distribution and identifying dominant roles within an organization. Radar charts, also known as spider charts, are used to compare multiple variables at once. They are particularly useful for comparing performance across different criteria. For example, evaluating employee skills such as communication, technical ability, teamwork, and so on and so forth. The larger the area covered by the chart, the better the overall performance. One advantage is that they allow comparison of multiple variables in a single visual. They also provide a quick overall feel for the data. However, they do have limitations. It becomes difficult to compare more than a few data sets at once, and too many axes can make the chart hard to read. Alrighty, let's now see what scatter plot uh, does it. Scatter plots are used to show relationship between two variables. If you look at each point represent a data observation and patterns formed helps identify correlations, whether positive, negative, strong or weak. For example, if you analyze relationship between salary and job satisfaction, scatter plots can be very useful. It can also be useful for identifying trends, outliers, and patterns. However, they can be difficult to interpret when there are too many data points, and exact values are not easy to understand. Yeah, this slide is nothing but an example which compares the salary and job satisfaction level, and you see how the scattered plots or scattered dots been given like in terms of salary or satisfaction level. It's pretty much I would see it's a salary, so it's not quite satisfaction level. What is the salary gives them the satisfaction level of 0 to I think 6. You can see if I'm earning like 120, there are few people who are pretty much happy in level 5, and at 180 there's only few, so it's between 80 to 100, 160 or 140. Pretty much everyone is quite satisfied. That's what it shows. The next one we have is your bubble chart. Bubble charts are an extension of scattered plots. They allow us to visualize three variables: x-axis, y-axis, and the bubble size. For example, in business, we can compare cost, value, and risk in a single chart. One advantage is that they provide more information without needing a 3D graph. The size of bubbles is what an important thing is. It makes it comparison intuitive. However, they can be difficult to read accurately, especially when bubbles overlap with each other or varying significantly in size. Okay, let's look at what dashboard is. A dashboard is a consolidated display of key information in a single screen. It allows users to monitor important metrics at a glance. Dashboards are widely used in project management, business analytics, and operations because they provide real-time data insights. Instead of analyzing multiple reports and decision makings can quickly view performance, identify issues, and take appropriate action. What is the advantage of using a dashboard? Dashboards offer several key advantages. They are customizable, allowing users to focus on relevant data. They are interactive, enabling deeper analysis. They also provide real-time monitoring, which is critical for your decision-making purposes. They bring all data into one central location, improving efficiency, and they are quite intuitive, making easy to or making them easy to use. And most importantly, they align everyone by providing a shared view of information, and basically overall dashboard enhance clarity, improve communication, and support your better decision making purposes. That's the conclusion part. We have seen all the different types of graphs and or what dashboard is using, particularly in your project analytics work. If you have any questions, we'll discuss in the class. And this is pretty much an easy presentation. Hopefully, you should have understood what analytics or data visualization and dashboarding means. So good luck with your studies, guys, and happy to see you on Friday. Have a good week. Ciao.